Hello, my name's Waldo, and I'm just an old guy that likes to read books. After 20 years of teaching American history and government, and uh, you just get a knack for having to have a book in your hand and reading it and enjoying the stories that are told, whether they're history books or otherwise. Sometimes you can find some very interesting stories in fiction books as well as nonfiction history books. I like to share stories about people that could be your neighbor, and some of these authors that I'll be talking about are ordinary people that could be your neighbor, and um, maybe you might recognize some neighborliness in them. So today I'm going to talk to you about three authors, but the first one that I want to talk about, you may know. He's someone that I like to read about, and not only was he an author that wrote interesting books, but he was also an author that um, found some similarities in my life and his life. Um, he was not one of those authors that had to hold down a part-time job while he wrote every night. After his third book, he was able to write full-time. He's a South Carolina writer, only had one goal in life. Once he started, he knew he wanted to be a writer. And against his own high school teachers, when they learned about it, they were very excited to realize that he not only was a jock, he was also a good student and a voracious reader. He wrote, not only did he write, but he loved to sit in the library and read. And it's interesting enough, we say he's a jock because his father signed him up for baseball, football, and basketball every school year that he registered. He never had a say in whether or not he wanted to play any of these sports, but it was just a foregone conclusion that he would play sports. And his father was a Marine fighter pilot um, at Parris Island, South Carolina, just outside of Beaufort. So the manly thing to do in high school was to play sports. And since his father was military, the only college good enough for his son was the Citadel, the military college of South Carolina. No questions asked about that. It was not the solution that Pat Conroy was wanting, but he knew it was the one his father planned. And his father made the decisions without Pat's input. A little did Pat Conroy or his father realize that the Citadel would provide a trove of stories that he could develop about a magical experience that he had at the Citadel. Almost all of his writings have some reference or influenced in some way by the Citadel. You can see this in his books like The Boo and The Great Santini, The Lords of Discipline, and others that he wrote. Conroy started his professional life as an elementary school teacher. In fact, in his first book was written after he was fired from his teaching job. The reasons given for his firing: his unconventional teaching methods, his refusal to use corporal punishment, and disrespect for the school's administrator. But I want to tell you a little bit about Pat Conroy's last novel, which may be his finest, South of Broad. Very interesting section of Charleston, a magical tale about a magical city and a band of high school graduates who stuck together long after high school. college and life careers took them in many different directions. Like most of his novels, there is an element of truth in the story. Conroy was introduced to the Holy City by one of his high school teachers who took him to Charleston from Beaufort one day, and at the corner of 4 Laws took a left turn and took a right turn. That is, they were headed east on Broad. They took a right turn to be south of Broad at the corner of 4 Laws, which is one of few in the world. And that is reasoning when you say the corner of 4 laws. God's law, city law, county law, and federal law were all represented on the corners of that intersection. And he told him he was going to turn and take him to what is called south of Broad, which by that the teacher meant the older section of mansions and distinctive Charleston architecture. From that moment on, Pat Conroy was hooked on Charleston. Through Leopold Bloom King, the story's narrator, South of Broad shows off Conroy's lyrical and masterful storytelling techniques. It is a love story about this captivating southern city of history and majesty. Let South of Broad grab you and pull you into a can't-put-it-down story with the cadence and the gentleness of Charleston itself. I am a Charleston native. You may recognize my accent every now and then. So when I got this book, I read it twice. So every nuance of the city, from the palmetto trees to the graceful boulevards, to the winding narrow streets, to the mansions facing the rivers and the alleyways below Broad Street, became the rhythm of my heart all over again. I'm going to read you just a section of paragraph from South of Broad that will get you into the mood for the story. In the great timepiece that was my life, my dance card was filled up every hour, my routine as set as a well-made cake. I awoke when my alarm went off the next morning and performed my morning toilet in ritual and darkness, then pedaled my bicycle down towards Colonial Lake and watched as Eugene Haverford's News and Courier truck pulled up to our appointed corner and 4 bundles of newspapers were heaved to the side. His cigar smoke was the first proof of my being alive each morning, and the blood surging through my thighs, and the warm air thick as marmalade, and the first traffic sliding down Rutledge Avenue. Paper route, daily mass, breakfast at Cleo's, 5 new vocabulary words. My life was over-encumbered by habit. And as we finish that one, I want to remind you that this book is usually available and you can easily find it. It may be one of his finest novels. It was definitely his last full work. And what we want to do now is transition to a new author that you may not have heard about, from Scotland.